DKDB Nashville.
Hello, friends. It's your buddy Lou Pickney with you here with a DKDB update. March 2nd, 2026. The 2026 NFL Scouting Combine is in the books. Now we have pro days to look forward to, and a whole lot of rumors, news, and conjecture to sort through. The DKDB is my personally curated 2026 NFL mock draft database. I put the best of the best in the DKDB. The best analysts, the best performers, etc. I'm tied for the third highest score in the Huddle Report over the past 5 years, 2021 to 2025. There are only two people in the world that have a higher score than I do in that range. One is Jason Boris, and the other is Brendan Donahue. Brendan's mock draft should be out fairly soon, if past years are any indication. Jason's will be out the first day of the draft that morning. At least that's the expectation. So a lot of new mocks coming in, as you would expect, that post-combine rush. So I'll react to a couple here. Give you some thoughts. And I'll work in some players and some notes that we've learned from the combine, etc. How that's shaping the impact, as it's perceived at least, on this year's NFL draft. Be sure to bookmark the DKDB. I update it on a regular basis. Multiple times a day this time of year. The best of the best in here. Click on a name or a site, takes you right to it. And to that end, let's get to it here with a couple of mock draft reactions. First, from Ryan Wilson of CBS Sports. And I encourage you to go and read these various mock drafts with more than just names on a list. You get rationale, explanations, scoops, all sorts of stuff. So Fernando Mendoza at 1 to the Raiders. The Indiana quarterback showed up stronger and performed well in the interviews from all indications. Every arrow is pointing at the Raiders taking Mendoza at 1. Here's David Bailey at 2. Bailey had a great performance at the combine. Not a surprise. They had him work out at linebacker, work out as an edge rusher, which I think is going to be how he'll be listed. They listed him as an edge at the combine. And my usual rule is I go with what they say. I'll go with what their respective university lists a player as. But after the combine, go through some player profiles and get it updated. Anyway, so Bailey, one of a few players the Jets are expected to consider here at number 2. Strong possibility he'll go there. At 3, now this is interesting because it's a mock trade that has the Buffalo Bills moving up all the way to number 3 to take Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate. That's as high as I've seen Tate go on any mock drafts, credible or otherwise. And yet it's a possibility. If Buffalo really likes Tate, that's a long way to jump to get up from down to the 20s all the way up to number 3. But if it happens, perhaps that's the move to get Tate at 3. It's interesting. At 4, Sonny Styles. His stock continues to rise. Sonny Styles impressed people with the workouts. He didn't have to do those workouts either. That's the thing. These top prospects, they could have waited and had their home facility, get it all planned out. But this is the way to go out there and say, look, we're legit. We're not afraid of these workouts. We're healthy. We're ready to prove it. Definitely did so. And so Sonny Styles projected to the Titans at 4. The latest mock draft from Ryan Wilson, CBS Sports. And I put the best of the best in the DKDB. At 5, Caleb Downs to the New York Giants. I think there's a strong possibility that'll happen if he's on the board at that point. Francis Maui-Noah, offensive tackle, to the Cleveland Browns at 6. Browns are going to need some help in that offensive line. Browns also have a pick at number 24. At 7, here's Arvell Reese, still on the board. Like with Reese, when they asked him to work out as a linebacker, they had him show off his coverage skills like he's a very strong safety, and also his edge rushing skills. A nice pickup for the Washington Commanders at 7, Arvell Reese. Number 8, Jeremiah Love still on the board going to the New Orleans Saints. There are a lot of indications that Love won't last until number 8. Somebody's going to take him before that spot. We'll see. He had a phenomenal performance at the Combine in Indianapolis. Again, one of those players. He was already the lock it in, throw away the key, number 1 running back prospect in this draft. And he still went out there and performed exceptionally well. So, Love to the Saints at 8. Ryan at number 9 has Spencer Fano, offensive tackle out of Utah, going to Kansas City at 9. Some of what Kansas City does with that number 9 overall pick will be predicated on how things go with their salary cap. Some cuts are going to have to be made soon, some decisions. And that could drive what the Chiefs do with that number 9 overall pick. They have not had a top 10 pick in several years. They've been very good. That's why it's worked out. At 10, how about this for the Cincinnati Bengals? Reuben Bain Jr. still on the board. Heard that Bain had a very good meeting with the Tennessee Titans, who might consider him at number 4. And again, it was not some sort of big surprise going into the Combine that Reuben Bain Jr. had arms that measured shorter than 31 inches, which is typically the cutoff line for when you're going to have success in the NFL. But Bain is a special player, a relentless talent, a great edge rusher, and a guy with a size you can use him as a 3-down defensive end. Even on a likely running play, you have Bain out there and he won't be a liability. And here he goes to the Bengals at 10. At 11, Mansour Delane, corner, LSU to the Dolphins. I like that team need and player matchup. So Miami at 11 gets Mansour Delane. It's my reaction to the latest mock draft from Ryan Wilson of CBS Sports. At 12, Jermod McCoy going to Dallas. Remember, Dallas also has the number 20 pick. McCoy would appear to be unlikely to slide to 20, so if he's there at 12, a nice pickup for the Cowboys. However, McCoy didn't go through the workouts at the Combine. Medically cleared. He suffered a torn ACL in January of last year. I remember last year, all that talk about Will Johnson, corner out of Michigan. And look, he had a great season for Arizona. But he went in the second round and not the first, as most had thought. So I get a little bit burned on something like that, and I tend to remember it. McCoy, if he can prove he's healthy, his 2024 tape is good enough that he's seen as one of the top corner prospects in this draft, but he still has to prove it. So we'll see what happens. Keep an eye on that pro day for the University of Tennessee. Those pro days, I can only imagine the challenges for these NFL teams trying to keep track of everything. Not to mention the logistics, travel, etc. Anyway, McCoy at 12 to the Cowboys. At 13, Colton Hood. So back-to-back corners from Tennessee. So the Rams fill a need at corner at number 13 in Ryan Wilson's latest 2026 NFL mock draft. And here it's Hood to the Rams at 13. I like Hood. He had a good showing at the Combine. That's a possibility. At 14, Caleb Banks. Defensive tackle from Florida. Some say Banks at number 14 overall to Baltimore. Some say Banks is a day 2 pick. So we'll see how that one plays out. Got tremendous physical skills. He only played in 2 games last season due to injury. At 15, Kenyon Sadiq, who had a lightning fast 40-yard dash time at the Combine. I think Sadiq will be in play for the Chiefs at number 9 overall. And that had been talked about before the draft in the summer. Like, well, his production wasn't outstanding at Oregon last season. And so maybe you don't go with him because of that. But forget that. When you've got that elite speed to go with the size, that's going to get you attention. And while the Buccaneers are expected to have defensive needs that will persist beyond free agency, if Sadiq's on the board here at 15, that could be the move for Tampa Bay. 16, Ryan Wilson says Mekhi Lemon to the Jets. A lot of talk the Jets will go receiver here at 16. Whether it's Lemon, Arizona State's Jordan Tyson, or if he's on the board, Ohio State wide receiver Carnell Tate. A lot of thought, a lot of talk, a lot of whispers that the Jets would go receiver at 16. At 17, TJ Parker, edge rusher, Clemson to the Lions. Possible the Lions could go with free agency to, or maybe even a trade to try and boost their offensive line and then go with an edge rusher here at 17, knowing there should be some good talent in this range. And solid edge rusher out of Clemson. At 18, Peter Woods, defensive tackle, Clemson. Weighed in at under 300 pounds. But his ability to rush the quarterback from an interior defensive line position is going to get him a lot of consideration. Maybe it'll be a safety here for the Vikings, maybe a corner, or maybe it'll be Peter Woods, defensive lineman, Clemson. At 19, Ryan Wilson has Caden Proctor, offensive lineman from Alabama. The Panthers at 19. You'll see projections for Proctor all over the place. Very unique talent. At 20, Keldrick Fox. This would work out quite well for Dallas. You get McCoy, the corner, at 12. You come back at 20. Keldrick Falk is still on the board. It's Falk, that great size, with that elite edge rusher ability. That would fill a big need for the Cowboys at 20. Number 21, Denzel Boston to Pittsburgh. Some strong indications that Pittsburgh's not interested in Ty Simpson. And I don't think that's just some sort of smokescreen. Pittsburgh knows what kind of quarterback talent's going to be in that draft next year. But what Pittsburgh does need, especially if they can keep Aaron Rodgers for one more year, get him a solid target. And Boston with that size at 6'4", be a possibility. There should be a lot of receivers in the mix here for Pittsburgh, if that's the decision at 21. At 22, Ryan Wilson has Venga Ioane, offensive guard from Penn State to the Chargers. This is one of my favorite player-to-team matchups. You never want to get too hung up on that. You're putting together a mock draft. You can't have an emotional attachment. It's going to be like sandcastles. Easy come, easy go. But Venga would fill a big need for the Chargers. I really like it from a best player available position and a team need position for the Chargers. Again, going through my reaction to the latest mock draft from Ryan Wilson of CBS Sports. At 23, Caleb Lomu to the Eagles. So Lomu, relatively young player. There's been talk Lomu would go late first. This would seem to be that range when that would be a possibility. I think if Proctor's on the board here, that might be more of what the Eagles would look for. But he's not. In this case, they go Caleb Lomu, which might mess up plans for, or I guess it wouldn't. They'll go Jordan Tyson. Now, what a pickup here for the Browns. Because the Browns, what they went with Maui Noah? Look. Yeah, you go Maui Noah up at 6. You come back at 24. You get Jordan Tyson. I don't know how realistic that is. But it could happen. Players always do have reasons for sliding. Tyson hasn't had a chance to work out and show what he can do as far as the drills go. Still recovering from the injury that ended his season prematurely last year. And that's the big question with Tyson. You look at his production. He's an explosive playmaker. He's 6'2". He's got size. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be a great receiver in the NFL. And that would be quite a pickup for Cleveland if he's still on the board at 24. He being Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. At 25, Ryan Wilson says Akeem Mesidor to the Bears. Bears are expected to go either defensive line or offensive line. Projections and predictions all over the place for the Bears. Mesidor will turn 25 years old early next month, which is old by NFL prospect standards, especially when you're talking about first-round contenders. But Mesidor, an elite edge rusher, the kind of player that can step in and help you right now, right away. The Bears, from Ryan Wilson's mock draft, go with Mesidor at 25. At 26, Blake Miller, offensive tackle, Clemson, that projected trade, Bills and Cardinals. So Arizona trades from 3 all the way down to 26. You can only imagine what else Buffalo would have to give up to do that. But in this case, Blake Miller's on the board, and that's what Arizona goes with at 26. 27, Omar Cooper Jr., receiver from Indiana. A lot of those Indiana receivers were, I think, slightly underrated because of how great Fernando Mendoza played last year. But they had to make those catches that were thrown right to the sideline, right to him. But you got to concentrate, make that catch, get in position. If you're dropping balls, then your quarterback's not going to be nearly as effective. Anyway, Cooper's got great hands. He showed what he could do at the combine. He's a riser. The Niners are going to have a need at receiver. There's just no two ways about it. So here they go, Cooper at 27. At 28, Caden McDonald, defensive lineman, Ohio State. Recorded 8.5 tackles for loss last year, despite mostly playing nose tackle, nose guard, right up on the center, where it's difficult to get tackles for loss, and yet he found a way. 29, here we go, Ty Simpson, Los Angeles Rams. There are a lot of rumors swirling about Simpson. Teams that do want him, teams that don't want him. I've heard top 12, which seemed oddly specific. Usually, when you hear it put like that, like if you hear top 15, that's usually scouting carny for spots 11 through 15, because otherwise you'd say top 10. Now, it doesn't always play out like that. So when you hear top 12 for Ty Simpson, well, we'll see. Number 30, C.J. Allen, linebacker, Georgia. I really like that matchup with Allen to the Denver Broncos. Still in need position at off-ball linebacker for the Broncos. 31, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, safety from Toledo. Tall, 6'3". A lot of options, as Ryan Wilson notes here in this latest mock. And at 32, Avion Terrell, corner from Clemson, going to the Seattle Seahawks. Terrell, I believe it was technically 186 pounds on his way in. Some of this information takes a little bit of time to get updated. But anyway, so that's the latest mock draft from Ryan Wilson of CBS Sports. Now let's have my reaction to the latest from Joseph Hoyt from the Dallas Morning News. I'll have the links to these mock drafts in the description section of the YouTube video. And of course, you can go to the DKDB database. Make sure to bookmark this page. I'll have that linked as well. Have it pinned in chat, the link so you can't miss it. Keep this updated. Put the best of the best in there. My busy season is picking up. It's good times. So let's see what the latest mock draft is here from Joseph Hoyt of the Dallas Morning News. At 1, Fernando Mendoza, Indiana, of course. At 2, David Bailey, edge rusher, Texas Tech. So here's another thought that it could be Bailey going at 2. Bailey had a very strong performance at the Combine in Indianapolis. Now the question is for Arizona at 3. If Bailey goes at 2, would Arizona pass on Jeremiah Love? Would they pass on offensive tackle Arvell Reese? If they considered him best player available, do you play him as an edge? Do you want him more as a linebacker? That's one challenge. When you get these really unique people with special physical gifts that other people simply don't have, you have to find a team that knows how to utilize that player effectively. In some ways, you're better off just being great at a known quantity position. Like if you're just an elite corner or just a tremendous pass rusher off the edge, in some ways it makes it easier to put you in the mix versus, think of somebody like Isaiah Simmons or people that have come through the past few years and been just, where do we put this person? They can play multiple spots versus we have a need. This is a great player that can fill it. So all those are considerations, but look, Reese, an elite talent. And if that's the pick for Arizona at 3, that's a pretty nice move there for the Cards. At 4, Jeremiah Love, running back Notre Dame to the Titans. It's a possibility. You have to remember, Love is a tremendous pass receiver as well. And while I think edge rusher makes more sense here, look, if Bailey's gone and Reese is gone, and while I heard that Tennessee had a good meeting with Reuben Bain Jr., if Love is there, that would be very interesting for the Titans. At 5, the New York Giants, Caleb Downs. I'm increasingly getting those two connected. Downs to the Giants at 5. Now, you could go offensive lineman, but there's some that don't think the offensive linemen in this draft are commensurate with a top 5 slot. And Downs is fantastic. If this were to happen, he would be the first safety to go in the top 5 of the NFL draft in 16 years. You have to go back to 2010. Kansas City Chiefs and Eric Berry out of the University of Tennessee. At number 6, Francis Mauigoa, offensive tackle Miami to Cleveland. I really like that pairing right there, if Mauigoa is still on the board. At 7, Washington Commanders, Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State. There's a lot of talk coming out of the Combine that the Commanders want an edge rusher here. So would you go with Reuben Bain? Or do you go with Sonny Styles, who started his career in Columbus, Ohio as a safety and then transitioned to linebacker? One of those unique talents and a fantastic showing at the Combine. Here, Washington goes with Styles at 7. At 8, New Orleans Saints, Carnell Tate, receiver, Ohio State. Really good at getting open. Tremendous hands, catches practically everything you throw his way. Be a nice weapon to add for Tyler Shuck in that Saints offense. At 9, here we go, Kenyon Sadiq. There was a point in time, shortly after the end of the regular season of the NFL, that Sadiq to the Chiefs at 9 was talked about, then kind of got faded a bit. After that Combine performance by Kenyon Sadiq. And as Joseph Hoyt notes here in his latest mock, Sadiq ran the fastest 40-yard dash time for a tight end in Combine history. Said to go back 20 years, Vernon Davis, 2006, but this is all time. The man weighs 241 pounds. Simply remarkable. At number 10, Reuben Bain Jr., edge for Miami. We've seen a couple that have had Bain at 10 still on the board. What a pickup for Cincinnati. And who knows what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson. It feels like this is a very long impasse. But that's the way it tends to go with high-profile players at premium positions. It can be complicated. At 11, Mansour Delane, corner from LSU to Miami. Like I mentioned earlier, I think that'd be a great matchup. Great fit for team need. Player ability. At 12, Dallas, Jermon McCoy. So Dallas goes McCoy here at 12. I wonder what they would do if Reuben Bain Jr. were still on the board somehow at 12. Some people, I mean, you never know who might slide, but here they fill a corner need knowing they can go with an edge at 20. Or perhaps a linebacker. At 13, Mekhi Lemon to the LA Rams. I like the idea of the Rams going with a receiver here at 13. I think it makes a lot of sense, particularly if the top couple of corner prospects are gone. If McCoy's on the board, maybe. If Delane's on the board, maybe. But Lemon, very effective receiver. 6'2", he's got the height. Be a good pickup for the Rams. Keep him in Los Angeles. These teams, they have extensive means they go to scout these players. They know Lemon pretty well. At 14, Baltimore Ravens, Akeem Mesidor, edge for Miami. That's interesting to me. The fact that Mesidor will be 25 years old by the time the draft gets here makes me think that he would be better suited to a team. Now, look, Baltimore may say, look, we're ready to give it a shot this upcoming year. We've got the goods. New coaching staff in place. I don't know that I see it happening this way, though. But it's interesting that some do, and it's not just Joseph Hoyt saying that, but others as well. I mean, would Baltimore really go with Mesidor over, say, Keldrick Falk from Auburn? Simply don't know. 15. C.J. Allen, linebacker, Georgia. I think this is worth noting here. Heard this from a few people. You can look at the Bucs and you know their team needs. If you can get an elite off-ball linebacker like C.J. Allen, it depends on how the Bucs feel about the edge rushers in the draft. But Allen, he would be getting a lot more talk if off-ball linebacker were a priority position in the NFL, but it just simply isn't compared to certain other spots. That premium talent, those primary priority positions. And yet Allen is good enough that top 15 is realistic. It's not election day here, pal. Dallas Morning News. My reaction to the latest mock draft from Joseph Hoyt, who at 16 has Monroe Freeling. A lot of talk about Freeling being a riser. There's some that have him even going top 10. Freeling impressed people this performance at the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine. 17, Spencer Fano. See, as much as I've heard Fano at maybe even at top 3 to the Arizona Cardinals, more realistic might be this range here. Fano, tremendous talent. He'd be a good pickup for Detroit if he's there. 18, Dylan Thiedemann, safety from Oregon. I mean, he ran a 4.35 40-yard dash. I mean, the lines between strong safety and free safety get kind of blurred anymore. He's not a thumper per se, but he's not afraid to lay a hit. He's got good instincts, tremendous speed. He would fill a need for Minnesota with Harrison Smith's impending retirement expected. At 19, TJ Parker, edge rusher, Clemson to the Carolina Panthers. You see a lot of different projections with Carolina in this spot. Of course, remember last year, all the talk that Carolina at number 8 was going to take an edge rusher. That didn't happen, but maybe this time it will. Parker, really solid career at Clemson. Shined to the Senior Bowl, performed well at the Combine, and here he's going at number 19 to Carolina. At 20, look at that. Mid-stride, the long legs. He's 6'3". Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, safety from Toledo. That'd be 3 safeties in the top 20 between Caleb Downs, Dylan Thiedemann, and then here, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren going to the Dallas Cowboys at 20. At number 21, Pittsburgh Steelers, Colton Hood, corner from Tennessee. Joseph Hoyt notes that I believe Hood would be of interest to the Cowboys possibly at 12 or 20, but still on the board at 21. And going to the Steelers, Vega Ioane, offensive guard, Penn State, Chargers. I've talked about this at length. I think it'd be a great matchup if it happens. 23, Cassius Howell, edge rusher, Texas A&M to the Eagles, who could use an edge rusher. If you believe that the shorter arm length there for Cassius Howell, they already knew this though before the combine even began. Look, his shorter arms will be a negative, but you look at the 11.5 sacks he managed to record with those shorter arms last season against some top-notch competition. Here, Joseph Hoyt says Howell at 23 to Philadelphia. 24, Cleveland Browns. You go with a tackle at 6, you come back here. Look at this, Jordan Tyson still on the board. I'm not sure if that'll actually happen, but if it does, nice play there for Cleveland getting Tyson at 24. Lee Hunter to the Bears at 25. Personally, I think Hunter's more day 2. There's a time and place for run stuffers. It's day 2. But if he fits the need for Chicago, that could be what they... And defensive line definitely is a need. And perhaps Hunter will be the choice at 25. 26, Buffalo Bills, R. Mason Thomas. So it could be a receiver. Could be a linebacker over here. Edge rusher from Oklahoma, R. Mason Thomas. Omar Cooper Jr. going to the 49ers at 27. Quite the possibility. Blake Miller to the Texans at 28. Avion Terrell, corner, to the Rams at 29. Denver. Nice shot there, midair. For Anthony Hill Jr., off-ball linebacker is a need for Denver, at least at this point. And Hill would certainly fill that need. Could fit potentially the best player available, depending on how Denver sees it. At 31, New England. The Patriots, Max Ironacre, offensive tackle, Arizona State. I've heard, maybe more day 2 for him, but 31 near the end of the first round, and that's what Joseph Hoyt has here for the Pats. And 32, Zachariah Branch, receiver from Georgia. For the Seattle Seahawks, number 32, the Super Bowl champs. Could go corner, could go with a few different spots. Branch, an electric playmaker. That's my reaction to the latest mock draft from Joseph Hoyt of the Dallas Morning News. I've got way too more than I have time to go through. Bunch of new ones out today. I'll have a new one coming up before too long. Things are going to really start to pick up from here. Can't wait. That's it for this DKDB update. I'm your host, Lou Pickney. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.